Hey y'all, so back with another war video. It's been quite a while since these, and maybe since before 60 frames per second came out. I honestly can't remember. Anyway, we first off have this hazard shift domino. I finished the Autumn of Agony gauntlet the morning of this war to get my Ultron up to SIG 160 with those extra 30 SIGs. You can see the incinerate's fallen off pretty quick. Just a quick math note. SIG 160 versus SIG 200 is 70% reduced duration on incinerates as opposed to 80, so that means I'm taking about 50% more damage from the incinerates than I would at SIG 200. If you want to keep that in mind as we're going and compare where we end up and what regions we trigger or don't trigger. Now, obviously, the danger of this fight is Domino going lucky more often and going indestructible more often. Clearly, that did not matter, right? We just kind of played around the indestructibles, played around the evades, although I think I did do something stupid and risky once, and let the degens do their work. Very, very happy to be upgrading my Ultron from a 6-star to a rank 3 here, because I was getting kind of tired of punching up and dealing with challenge rating and all that. Next up, we have this Rintrah. We still have our invuln boost that we thankfully didn't need from the Domino fight running. I tend to go a little harder on gray boosts at the start of seasons because I just assume I'm rustier. I'm probably taking more fights that I'm not as used to. It's better to be safer. And you are definitely seeing that here, although thankfully, I don't think you actually see them come into play much. Obviously, I completely lost all three of the charges there, being a moron and forgetting how the Limber Mastery works. So now we just have to wait for Luke's to come back. I had them there in case we ate special 3s more than combos. That's alright. This fight works really well. Because of Rintrah having long specials, generally being a bit rude here, I didn't get up to 5 exhaustions, and rather than go to my special 3, I decided to go ahead and get the 1 concussion up. You're going to see that happen again here, even though I could have backed off. That's fine. Now we have 2 60% concussions, which I have to admit has me at a complete loss as to why that power gain buff triggered. That doesn't feel like that should have happened, but it doesn't really matter because we have the exhaustions, we're controlling ability power rate, we are playing very carefully around the special 2s instead of dodging in, because we not only don't have our indestructible, we also do not have the extra block proficiency we would if we had it up, and so I'm just letting this take longer to be safer. I have no concerns here, right? Now we've fully shut him down, and we're doing good damage. This could have been a much faster fight, but no need to be fancy with it when Luke was shutting it down that completely. Moving on, we have this Gorr. In most seasons, there are pretty limited counters to this. In this season with Decay, as long as you have somebody who answers Rich Get Richer, it's honestly a bit of a joke. And you will see that right here. So I start with Parry Heavy because that is going to at least give me the stun and the debilitate and give me a good chance of getting slow up. And at that point I have enough debuffs that I can just block whatever I want. Like, Gorr has so much attack on this particular node that if he hits me when I'm not indestructible, it's going to hurt an incredible amount. And you can see the block damage there, even through Luke's boosted block proficiency. And so in normal seasons, those debuffs would just be shredding us. But with Decay shutting that down and us reversing ability power rate, we can just do that. And this is a very, very easy fight. Moving on, I am next taking the Weapon X on Hazard Shift Incinerate Shock, which is where he seems to be living most often these days. It does make sense. There are not a ton of really good options. A lot of the ones with heal block don't have the necessary immunities, have trouble keeping it up if they play around the immunities, they might need the Odin pre-fights. Ultron doesn't really care, but he also doesn't have a heal block if you're not running Hulkbuster, which I did not have room for. And so this is going to take a little bit longer than it otherwise might need to. I am running an invulnerability boost here, because if he crits on both hits of a heavy, I found out before, that really hurts. But really, I'm just relying on the degens here. I'm going to throw my special 2s, I'm going to find places to land my heavies. I think right here you see, yep, there's the striker. I land this. We still have the boosted attack rating from the cauterize from the special 2. We land giant degens. We're getting that 4,500 per tick. That's 9k DPS in damage over time. That's going to help us cut through the regens, right? Now his Berserk is back on cooldown. We are taking damage from the shocks and the incinerates, right? We're not immune to either. We don't have willpower, and my Ultron isn't max sig. I'm taking, like I said earlier, 50% more damage than I would at max. However, it's clearly working fine, right? Land another heavy by baiting out his, and now I back off because I know he's going to go Berserk. Tempting to try and just close it out there, but not wise. So we resist the temptation and just let the fight reset, bait out that heavy, and we're good to go. And so in both of my Ultron fights, even though I was facing rank 3 7-stars, I didn't even hit the first regen, despite not being at max sig. So when I call that out, I am going to be leaning on him pretty heavily for those kind of fights. He does not need to be all the way at 200. Now, this fight is scary. There are not a lot of really hard counters to this. It's a very good placement. We saw it in a few different places. Because of that, I think another of the battle groups slow played it with Void, which is a very good option. It's not that there aren't counters, but there aren't really a lot of characters that can handle Sugar Pill and the increased power he has. We're looking at some more things. Got very unlucky with the short relic buff expiring there, even though my own wouldn't have. I should have clocked that, my bad. So I'm not going to necessarily say everything that we are talking about for this node going forward, but I will say for this node right here, we had the answers, but I was not playing well enough to keep charges down. I'm not sure it's really possible to keep charges all the way down, but there is a way to deal with his special 1 such that you don't ramp charges with it. You dex the right hits, you block the right hits, you can avoid it ticking up there. And if you have the Withers up from Decay, you can do the same thing with the special 2, even if he is ramped and the Incinerates are applying through block. So I could have kept his armor and crit resistance down. Now, the armor I no longer care about because I have this True Strike off the Special 3. The crit resistance is going to slow us down, right? But even then, I see how much damage the degen off the Special 2 has done, and I just go, okay, I need to not die, and we're fine. That is really the whole thing. As we're going to see, I do take more damage than I should, so I kind of cut it close on the not dying part. And it is difficult to refresh her buffs through all of these specials, because as a reminder, this node has power efficiency on it, which is allowing his specials to cost 50% less, and then Sentinel's kit also allows them to cost 30% less, which is why this is so bad. So we get another unstoppable trigger there. It is tough to keep the slow up, right? That's probably more important than us keeping the buffs up, because he's just always throwing these specials. It's very tricky. Now, one thing that I want to shout out that I could have done significantly better even with Gamora, just block the special 2s. Use the Incinerates, like block one of the hits in the special 2, and use the Incinerates to heal, right? Because they're not going to do any damage through Decay. I don't need to worry about that. As long as I haven't blocked the special 1 for the heal block, they're free healing, and then I could have looked a lot better through this fight. So there's a good chance I need to take this again. It is tough to hold on to the slow, and so that's going to make me think twice about it. Like I said, we're going to keep working on that. But if I do end up taking this again, the biggest thing I'm going to do is to make sure that I don't get heal blocked, intentionally block some of the incinerates, generally not mess up the special 1 evade, because that happens several times in here, and that's kind of embarrassing. And I'm going to come in with the game plan that I ended up going with here, and just assume that 2 special 3s finishes this fight, right? I probably could have thrown it here, and the degen combined with the withers controlling his power gain would have been enough, but I'm playing it super, super safe, making sure that I wait for those armor ups to trigger on Sentinel so that I can also be controlling the power gain when they expire. I'm going to bait out this special 2, and then I am going to throw my own special 3. See, that's fine, having those incinerates. I do go for the heavy there to refresh things. And I think I bait out 1 more, because even though that would have been fine, the special 3 doesn't grant a full bar of power. Like I said, at this point, I was a bit spooked. I think my hands were literally shaking. I was being as careful as I possibly could to make sure that when I threw this special 3, it was definitely over. And you see that that finishes Sentinel off when it's about 40% elapsed, meaning we had another 10% health in the tank. Definitely could have thrown it earlier. Again, I'm sure people will be suggesting things in the comments. That's fine. We have plenty of ideas. I'm not worried about it. I'm just also not going to discuss them here. Season's still young for us. But like I said, focused on how to play that fight better next time. There are several things that I feel confident I could do. Now, this one, the hardest thing about this fight is literally what happened to me at the very beginning, which is why I'm running a regen boost. The hardest thing about it is the spacing on the heavy, right? Because sometimes if he throws the heavy at the wrong spot, you are going to get tagged by that incinerate. The good thing that you won't necessarily catch in your duels, though, is that decay means the incinerate does no damage, and therefore you heal back some of the hit damage from it. So all that's good. And right here, it's good for me to clock that I am at 8 of my own personal buffs, and therefore I can now ignore the falter after Prowler's specials, and I can just counter them with a heavy to instantly refresh all my stuff and avoid decay. So now that's our game plan, and this was the whole thing, right? Start by countering the heavies, eventually ramp enough that you can counter the specials, and just not care that you don't have power because Gamora hits that hard. This could have been very, very clean without getting hit at the beginning, but that's what regen boosts are for, right? There's not a lot of fights where they're good, and this is one where it helps. We get the whole thing down in 90 seconds, no specials, no Godslayer necessary. You could absolutely do that with an unduped Gamora. She's a great answer. We'd been saying in my battle group that we should have been sending more Gamora for a while. I've had a rank 3 for over a year now. Every time I've used her, she's felt good. It's just she doesn't have the kind of kit that people normally send in war. But we've still felt like we could probably stretch her a bit more, so it was nice to get that use out of her here. And yeah, that was our war. Not really a surprise that we lost this one. We got salty right off the bat. We weren't pushing at all last season. I don't think I joined a war last season, being completely honest. We've got some rust to shake off, as my Sentinel fight showed. Not worried about it. The Alliance will bounce back. We've done this whole thing before. Decay is a good spot for it. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hope you're looking forward to the future ones. I will say what I just covered, us not trying last season, is also why I have not updated my essential attackers for Decay. It also felt a little weird to update it for a tactic that we've seen before, but that will be coming back in future seasons, so keep an eye out for that. Anyway, until next time, thank you so much for watching, and take care.